Hey, what's up y'all? I'm back with another video. I'd like to apologize for my brief hiatus as I was lost in the Chilean mountainside after my house suspended by millions of balloons was suddenly cast from the sky, but I'm good now. I've been playing The War Within a pretty decent amount recently, with decent being an understatement, and I've been making quite a bit of gold to go along with it with mining and herbalism while leveling, and figured I would make a guide on how to quickly level your mining and herbalism, as well as the best possible routes for each to make as much gold as possible in as little time as possible. Anyways, that being said, let's just get right into it. First and foremost, we need to cover leveling. Leveling your professions, at least the gathering ones, is pretty slow compared to previous expansions, seeing as regular nodes stop giving you levels towards the higher end, requiring rare nodes to progress any further. To help with this, I would recommend purchasing the File of True Sight off the auction house in order to see additional nodes, much like the mist-piercing goggles during the Pandaria expansion. That is, if you're willing to cough up a somewhat decent amount of gold, at least for the average player. Personally, for leveling both mining and herbalism, I'd recommend this dual gathering route on the Isle of Dorn, which, while not only being the most laid-back option between the four zones, will provide you with the most herbs, and take just enough time to allow the nodes to respawn by the time you loop around from the point at which you started. Now, as far as choosing your specialization goes, I'd recommend going with mining fundamentals and botany respectively once reaching level 25, as they're not only helpful for dragon riding, but are also generally the best early game options, as you'll be able to max out the other trees as you continue to mine and herb throughout the expansion. As far as ore goes, between levels 1 through 70, with the exception of bismuth, everything is going to grant you levels, so if you're just looking to level, I wouldn't be picky. Between 70 and 100, however, only the empowered, camouflaged, and ironclaw nodes are going to grant levels, so unless you're mining every node, I'd focus on these if you want to reach 100 as fast as possible. For herbs, the going is pretty similar. Between levels 1 through 60, with the exception of Mycobloom, everything is going to grant levels, so I wouldn't be picky on what you're gathering. The main difference between leveling your mining and herbalism begins to appear once you get past level 60, however, with empowered and camouflage herbs only getting you to around level 80 of 100, meaning you're going to have to rely on empowered Orbanid, Erethdor's Spear, Luredrop, Blessing Blossom, as well as Lush nodes if you want to reach level 100. Now that we've established how to level our mining and herbalism as fast as possible, as well as which specialization to start off with, we can get into the real good stuff, being the farming routes and rates. The first route that I wanted to share, of course, was the Isle of Dorn. You're actually going to follow the same route that you did while leveling, seeing as it's easily the most optimal as far as the nodes per hour go in the zone, and it'll be the most familiar, meaning that you'll have no issues turning that brain of yours off while you mindlessly grind nodes for some of the freest gold in your life. Running around the loop for an hour typically yields me between 1100 and 1200 trade goods for a total of around 130 to 140,000 gold per hour, which is pretty good, considering most of the nodes aren't contested by mobs, and it's probably the easiest of the four zones to navigate. That being said, you're not going to be making much gold off of the herbs in the zone, seeing as Mycobloom and Erethdor's Spear are relatively low priced in comparison to the other three herbs you can find around Khazalgar. I would like to point out that my gold per hour calculations are at the time of the video, and since it's still the first week of the expansion, the numbers may be slightly bloated, but who knows where the market will be later on. The next route that I wanted to share with y'all is here in the Ringing Deeps. Unlike the Isle of Dorn, you're going to find significantly more herbs as opposed to ores, with the main difference being the increased amount of uncommon quality herbs. Running around the loop for an hour typically yields me between 800 and 1000 trade goods for a total of around 140 to 160,000 gold per hour, which is actually not too bad. That being said, however, I found that there is significantly more competition throughout the zone throughout the day, so this number may vary depending on if you're able to compete for node spawns and the types of nodes you're able to harvest. It's not really a big deal for someone like me though on a dead server, so it is what it is. Next, I wanted to show y'all this route which you can find here in Ashkahet. An important thing to know about Ashkahet is the mobs start at level 78, so if you plan on mining here on a fresh 70, just be aware of your surroundings. Wasn't an issue for me though, since I'm just kinda built like that, but it is what it is. Also, it's recommended to keep clear of the southeast corner of the zone, not because of the mobs or amount of ore or anything, but since the area has too much vertical movement to be considered worth it. At least in my opinion, since running around the rest of the zone as specified in the map JPEG I flashed earlier gets the job done. Unlike the Isle of Dorn or the Ringing Deep, Ashkahet has Acherite as opposed to Ironclaw, which is worth slightly less gold in value, so take that information however you'd like. Running around the loop for an hour typically yields me between 900 and 1,000 trade goods for a total of around 140 to 150,000 gold per hour, depending on the types and amount of herbs that you're able to harvest around the zone. While pretty good, the zone may fall off as the price of trade good fluctuates, but I would compare it to the likes of the Isle of Dorn as far as the zone's worthwhileness goes. The final route that I wanted to share with y'all as far as dual gathering in the War Within goes, at least for this patch, is located here in Hollowfall. Now, interestingly enough, the northern section of the zone is quite sparsely populated with nodes, so while I personally wouldn't recommend farming there, if you're struggling with competition for nodes or you're looking to take some manner of risk to your herbs per hour rate, you can always farm up there. I don't really care. Much like Ashkahet, you're not going to find much of, if any, Ironclaw here as opposed to Acherite, so do with that knowledge what you will. Also, like Ashkahet, the mobs in the zone are going to be higher level, albeit only level 75, so you may need to be cautious, especially around the patches of level 80 mobs in the zone, that is if you aren't max level yet for some reason. Running around the zone for an hour typically yields me between 1,000 and 1,200 trade goods for a total of around 160 to 180,000 gold per hour, which is actually pretty good. I'm unsure of what it was about the zone, but I've typically had better rates while farming throughout Hollowfall, and a lot of the difference mainly comes from the amount of bismuth found throughout the zone, as opposed to the likes of Ironclaw or Acherite. This has been the zone I've been farming the most the past week, so while I'd personally recommend it, I can't tell you what to do. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. With the War Within finally being out, I should be able to get back into making regular content, God willing. I plan on doing a standalone video for skinning sometime. I just have to level my skinning character, so it may be a minute cause I don't really care enough. If you guys are interested in more profession leveling guides and how to use said profession for making gold, let me know down in the comments, especially if you have any questions so that I can read them and think about answering them before inevitably choosing to not respond. I'll make follow-up videos to this guide as new nodes come out throughout the expansion, since it's basically a layup of an idea for a video, and Papa needs his juice if you know what I mean, so make sure to subscribe for more. Like I say in literally all of my videos, my Discord server is officially open, and if you'd like to join, there is a PowerPoint link in the description below that has the link at the end of a short presentation, so feel free to drop in. Or don't. I don't care. Anyways, all of that aside, as always, peace.